Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Not only is it one of the greatest movies ever made, but is often regarded as having one of the best movie tie-in video games alongside it. Released in 2002, The Two Towers is a linear 3D side-scrolling hack-and-slash game that not only follows the story of the Two Towers from the perspective of our three brothers-in-arms, but sections of the Fellowship of the Ring as well. There were multiple platform releases for this game. The PS2, the Xbox Original, the GameCube, and even a Game Boy Advanced version, along with an unfortunately cancelled PC port. I'll be playing the PS2 version made by Stormfront Studios. This is also a childhood game of mine, and I haven't played it since I was about 16 years old, so it's been a while, and I wanted to go back and see if it's anywhere near as good as I remember it being. So, let's get into it.
Much that once was is lost, for none now live who remember it.
We are shown the opening from the first film, with Galadriel talking about the Rings of Power, and how there was this one mildly important individual who said, "I'm gonna make a better ring," and he does that, and then kills a bunch of people. And then we go to war. One of the coolest parts in this game to me, especially as a kid, is this. How cool is that? My mind was blown when seeing this for the first time, and this game opens by just throwing you into the metal boots of Isildur in the thick of combat at Mount freaking Doom with that iconic battle music in the background as you effortlessly body orc after orc. It's such a great opening. This whole opening mission is basically acting as a tutorial, and as a tutorial, it's fine. You are told that square is your defense and X are your fast attacks to dispatch of these orcs, all of which die in one swing, getting you used to the feel of the fast attacks. A bit later, these shield dickheads pop up. Triangle is your fierce attacks and can destroy the shields of any enemies. Firstly, this defense is more of a parry, where you don't hold a defensive stance. You have to press the button every time you want to not take damage, basically. This does mean you can spam the button and become invulnerable to standard attacks as you flail your sword in the face of the enemy to confuse them more than anything. If you don't know your next move, neither will they. Secondly, the reason I say it's fine as a tutorial is because it doesn't just drop text boxes on you, which I always appreciate. It just tells you, hey, this button does this and this one does this. Now do the thing with the thing when you press the button. And it shows you a flashing icon on the screen. It doesn't pause any momentum, which, especially in this scenario, would suck. However, there are some important moves the game never tells you about, such as Killing Move. Using this on an enemy knocked to the ground will kill them instantly. And Jump Back, quickly dodging backwards, which I found invaluable when fighting certain enemies. The game never tells you this. You would only find out about these by just pressing buttons and seeing what they do, possibly seeing them during the load screens like tips, or by looking in the game manual. Because this was a time when physical games came with a complete manual. I miss when these were a thing. I miss looking at the pictures more than anything, really. This manual also gives you a neat little rundown on the Legend of the Ring, and a list of several characters and forces of evil you see in the game. The level picks up another step by having Mount Doom erupt, and the field around you is hit with falling fiery rocks with a good old screen shake. It's such an awesome opening, and it always stuck with me. And then the arsehole himself makes an appearance, and we go bonk, cut, and profit, after which we are given a mission summary screen, which I'll go into a bit later. The even more handsome Aragorn, in all of his cutscene glory, retells the events of the Fellowship to Éowyn at Helm's Deep, starting with the battle at Weathertop.
Ring race! Get back! Back, foul thing! They seek the ring bearer. Stay close!
This is the only time you use a torch as a weapon throughout the entire game, and you'll be using only your fierce attacks, because swift attacks do nothing to these hooded bastards. It's also the first time the game introduces a health bar other than your own, with an icon to match so you know who is in danger. In this case, of course it's Frodo. On goes the ring, bip, And a cool thing about this level is that your torch can run out after a certain amount of hits, so you have to go back to the fire and hit with a fierce attack to relight the torch. The Nazgul shank Frodo and his health starts to deplete. This gives a nice sense of urgency, especially with the flashing of the health bar. Eventually we defeat the Nazgul, whisk Frodo to Rivendell, and are given another mission summary screen. So, let's look at how this works. You get a rating for each kill in the game, and they can be either fair, good, excellent, or perfect. The higher the rating, the more points you get, and you can increase the rating of the kill by not getting hit and performing more complicated combos. This is represented by this little icon here, along with the experience meter. You may also notice that with each hit and kill, a ring slowly forms around it. When this fills up, your weapon goes Super Saiyan, and does increased damage for a short period of time, as well as each kill counting as a perfect kill rating. This encourages you to keep up the pressure on the enemy and ideally use more complicated attacks. And remember, not getting hit also plays a part. So, when you beat a mission, you get a bunch of points, which not only go to increasing your level, but can also go to spending on upgrades. You have levels 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8, and have every upgrade from level 1 by default. There are several types of upgrades like combos, health increases, damage increases, and things called linked moves. Linked moves are the best upgrades because not only do they look cool, but they instantly kill an enemy you perform it on, depending on the type of enemy, so make sure you read the description because that is important. I struggled a lot to pull these off as a kid. And I always saw the characters do them in cutscenes, pointed at them and said, "But he did the thing. I want to do the thing, damn it." This is the mission select screen. It's pretty cool looking. We are now shown for the first time the 3 characters we can play as throughout the game. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, each with respective levels and different abilities. I'm going to be playing as Aragorn for the most part because Dunedain, but we will have a look at Gimli and Legolas later on.
To Moria.
On to the Mines of Moria, and we are accompanied by Gimli, scouting ahead to clear a path for the rest of the group. 2 things you may notice. 1. Some events throughout this game never happened within the films, such as a few of the Fellowship going ahead to clear a path. There are several times this happens and it's not entirely lore accurate, but it's fine, because it's fun. 2. The camera is non-movable by the player. It will follow you itself and will sometimes suddenly shift to a new point of view. This is fine for the most part, but sometimes it forces your character to start running in a new direction, which can be a bit annoying, and sometimes it is a bit jarring with the sudden jump. It can also be annoying when an enemy comes into frame swinging for the fence with their sword. Anyway, Gimli full-on gores a goblin, and we get a pretty cool slow-motion save by Aragorn. This is something I want to quickly mention, and it's how satisfying the sounds are in this game. The clashing of blades, the creaking of your bow when you pull it back, when your sword hits an enemy, when the shield breaks, and probably the most satisfying sound is that killing move. They may not all be realistic, but they damn sure make the chemicals in my brain do the happy dance. We get some poor footing by Aragorn, before he quickly deflects arrows with his sword. I really like this little bit because it also doubles as a mini tutorial to show you that you can also parry ranged attacks, and it's cool, so do it. A bit further up and we come across our first boss, the Watcher in the Water, who promptly bitch slaps Gimli silly, leaving us to defeat it alone. And I'll tell ya, it was fairly boring. Firstly, the music for this fight left something to be desired. Secondly, all you do is wait for the tentacle, parry tentacle, cut off tentacle, and then shoot in face. That's it. There is no dodging any slam attacks or anything, which is a bit disappointing, though admittedly, I struggled with this boss as a kid because a lot of the time I completely forgot that parrying was even a thing, so I would randomly parry a tentacle with sheer luck, and then when I saw it wiggling about, I just ignored the other 2, swinging my way, and got slapped in the face for it. What I will say though is that I do like how this boss makes you use the bow. With the breaks between each attack that the boss does, it basically acts as a learning curve or a learning opportunity to get more used to how the bow attacks work and the length of the animations.
Fell beast.
Then all the gang show up and we enter the mines. We jump straight into the fight in Balin's tomb with a lovely one-to-one recreation scene from the Fellowship of the Ring and get absolutely swamped by some orcs. This is also the first time we fight alongside more than one other person, and despite the somewhat dire circumstances, it felt comforting. This whole fight is just a small arena that eventually leads to our second boss fight, the Cave Troll. This is where the backstep comes in absolutely clutch, as the way you can beat this troll is by simply doing 1 to 2 fierce attacks, then backstepping. Rinse and repeat and you can just bully this troll. Also, something I love is how true they stay to the troll's mad swings, because they also just hit the enemies as well. It's fantastic. This is the first time we get a phase 2 from a boss with some of the most terrifying eyes in gaming history. Look at them! They are awful. They make goat eyes look welcoming. With a change of scenery, we start phase 2, with the troll having none of my shenanigans and swinging its chain very aggressively at me. We now have to use our ranged attacks, and have to time them to move out of the way of the chain swings. We can also hide behind these pillars, which will eventually break them after a few hits, but it's really cool because it gives us another opening to get 1 or 2 shots in. This is probably the fight that I got stuck on the most in my younger years, because holy, that chain hits really hard. Anyway, we kill the troll. On to the next level, and one of my personal favourites, Amon Hen. But first I want to mention something. The more I sat here and thought about this, the more annoyed I got. And that's the fact that there is no mention of Durensbane, the Balrog that has a showdown with Gandalf. There is no boss fight, no mini fight or even a chase scene, not even a cutscene to show them off. From what I could find, it was most likely both a budgetary and technological reason as to why they weren't able to include it, and that they wanted to focus on key cinematic parts from the film. If that is the case, this scene, in my opinion, is the most emotional part of the entire film and is also a key moment. It's the last moments of Gandalf the Grey. It just feels criminal that the Balrog wasn't even mentioned in any capacity. Except, look at this. This is the Game Boy Advanced version. There's a full-on fight against the Balrog in the Game Boy version. What the fuck? Sorry, side run over. Let's go kill some Uruk-hai. The reason this is one of my favourites is twofold. The battle music is some of the best in the entire game and all 3 films, and the sense of urgency with needing to kill a certain amount of Uruk-hai before Frodo's health is fully depleted, and creates an amazing adrenaline rush. Also, we get a quick glimpse of the Uruk-hai himself, Lurtz. I also want to appreciate the animations of the Uruk-hai. Sometimes when they get hit, they use their sword to literally drag themselves back in, and their death animations are also really nice additions, and they show a bit more of that Uruk-hai tenacity and to keep going until they die. I love this level, despite these fireball fucks. They throw their balls at you and set you on fire. A cool little standoff with the 3 boys on the bridge, and we managed to kill off enough Uruk-hai to get the last minute save on Frodo, and in a nice brief touch, the icon of Frodo changes to Boromir. It's just a cool little thing. Now our third boss fight, against Lurtz. And he holds true to his love of using a bow because holy fuck, he can shoot quicker than Legolas in this fight. We make it to the second phase as Lurtz grumbles from being outplayed, picks up a sword and charges at you, and it's honestly quite intimidating with his leaping attacks. He is a big Uruk-hai, and it's actually kind of scary. You need to get his sword wedged into these statues to actually damage him in this phase, and he barely gives you enough time and room to move into position. Eventually, with Lurtz now defeated and not getting a word in from Boromir, which is also kind of crazy because this is also a very emotional part of the film, we are now starting the 2 Towers section of this game, starting with Fangorn Forest, but not before buying our first linked move, just in case. This is one of those levels that... Oh. Good evening. Anyway, this is one of those levels that has no bearing on lore accuracy from the film, but remember, this was 2 months before the actual release of the film, and it's just a fun little mission. that turns out to be the scariest one. Seriously, the atmosphere here is haunting, and the amount of orcs that just keep jumping out at you, it's like a horror film. You are just running through a giant log and what the fuck, an Urukai berserker? What the fuck are you doing here? You come across a troll just hiding in a tree who now throws branches at me, because sure, why not? And then some orcs who are standing around a hole. Just a hole with some eerie music. One orc pranks another with a little shove who then... Honestly, I don't know what is meant to be happening to them, outside of dying. This whole forest is a combination of orcs and Urukai, which feels so strange and... Oh shit! I did it! I did the thing on the orc! Or the goblin, I think. I punched them in the face with my sword. Oh, I feel on top of the world right now. Nothing can dampen my spirits, and that's another troll. Oh no, it's just two. Great. Honestly, this is actually quite easy given our legendary technique of upswing and backstep. Also, the other troll just leaves you alone for some reason, rather than gunning for you. Making it to the end, and it turns out that even Ents are on Santa's list. I know. I didn't think he was real either. The next stop is Rohan, but I want to quickly show some gameplay as Legolas and Gimli first, and to show you what the differences are. So, as Gimli, the first thing you might notice outside of his small but mighty stature is that he only carries 25 throwing axes in comparison to Aragorn's 30 arrows, but let's be honest, we are playing Gimli to use that big beautiful axe. Speed wise, I couldn't really feel a difference, but damage wise, it's 2 hits from swift attacks and it's enough to kill an Urukai. That is crazy to me. On to Legolas. The main difference with him is having 60 arrows. 60. Double what Aragorn has, and despite that, Legolas is admittedly my least favourite to play. From what I could tell at a base damage level, there is no difference between Legolas's bow and Aragorn's bow. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I couldn't tell. Melee wise he is the weakest, and it doesn't even feel like that due to his attacks not being as strong, but it felt like I had the hardest time with his attacks actually connecting with any enemy. That is a consistent issue throughout this game with all 3 characters, and it got quite frustrating, but it felt the worst as my favourite elven boy. Which sucks. Doubly so with him because shooting in this game doesn't feel that great. As far as upgrades, Legolas has the most damage increase for ranged weapons, Gimli has the most health upgrades, and Aragorn sits in the middle. Outside of that, all the combos serve the same purpose with different animations. Maybe with some of these ranged upgrades he would feel better to play, but Aragorn and Gimli just feel better out of the box. Look how they butchered my boy! Back to Rohan, and in a bizarre twist of events, it's under attack by armoured Urukai, with explosives in tow. It's a cool introduction, but it felt so strange seeing them in Edoras and not just at Helm's Deep. Similar to Amon Hen, this is basically a timed mission as we have to save the populace from the Urukai attack. So we get to work and holy fuck! That was ruthless! Further ahead and we witness a clash of Rohan forces against the Urukai, and see these 2 Terminators just waltz on up to these 2 civilians, cutting down men in the process. They throw these 2 into a burning building and then block the entrance. That is so brutal. It's the most vicious thing I've ever seen them do both in game and film. Another level I love, and it's how well it captures the brutal nature of these evil bastards. In a nice change, we actually get to fight alongside Éomer. I think it's Éomer. We never get to see Theoden within this game. You know, the king of Rohan. We are now on bomb disposal duty, and the cutscene basically showed us how to delicately deal with them. Just shoot them. Again, I love it when a game doesn't need to tell you what to do by text box, it just does a quick example right beforehand. It doesn't need to tell me to stay away from the bombs when I shoot them, because they're bombs. Oh, looks like Éomer is suffering from the imaginary shield debuff again. I feel like the game wanted to make sure you were aware that they are introducing a new enemy, because this just feels like an Isengard clown car with how many keep coming around the corner. At least they were polite enough to run in a single file. Marching our way across the water, we blow up the rest of the supply they were transporting somewhere else, and our job here is done. Now on to my least favourite mission. which is a damn shame because this is the first and only time we get to fight Warg riders. We arrive and 2 Wargs burst onto the scene and we quickly dispatch of them. We move on through and are cut off from our allies and are met with that one orc that was in the headbutting match with Aragorn. He summons more Warg riders, which all in all are fine to fight against, before fighting the orc himself as a boss? Huh? I've only been here for less than a minute and I'm already fighting a boss? Okay, sure. So this orc, whose name is Shire, is pretty damn annoying to fight. He slowly strafes to the side while parrying all arrows you try to hit him with, runs you down with these sudden sharp turns making it a bitch to dodge, and if you stay in his face trying to melee him, the overgrown pup lifts you up while Shire gets some cheeky swings in before you are then slammed down. Every so often he will summon another Warg rider, proceed to say, in which then we do that. The Warg then shows its belly, which I proceed to shoot, which does 0 damage. I was perplexed as to what I needed to do, so much so that I actually died in this fight. My first death was to an orc, named Shire. I did feel slightly cheated on this because when you shoot the belly, you can clearly see the rider is still able to parry my shots away, and the first time I tried to melee them, I just got grabbed again. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, I was just shooting the belly and just waited. To no surprise, this came to no fruition. This is one of the few things I don't remember needing to do, but you are meant to shoot the big belly, then go up and swing at the Warg to actually deal damage. You know, the thing I tried to do the first time, but I guess I was just at the end of the stun animation. This boss had the most to them as far as what you needed to do to win, but it felt the worst to actually fight. The Watcher was boring, sure, but this just felt bad. Doubly so that this is all the mission. 2 to 5 Wargs killed, and straight into a boss, and this is all she wrote. Honestly, I felt like they could have done more with this. Again, because it's the only time you fight Warg riders. It breaks my heart a bit. But it's all good because we now get to do one of the best levels as we are on the walls of Helm's Deep. In a unique little scene, we get Legolas not mentioning where the Uruk-hai weak points are, and we actually hear Aragorn give the fire command, but in a different tone. I feel like they dubbed over an already shot scene, and it felt kind of weird but also unique to hear. The aim of this level is to not let this bar here fill up to the Uruk-hai symbol. We can prevent this by killing enemies that are on the wall and by kicking down ladders that are letting more of them up. The ladders' locations are noted by these red dots, and for some reason, both orcs and goblins decide to take part in this. This felt great to play. And this game does a great job in general with making you feel like you are in Middle-earth, fighting the enemy with members of the Fellowship. But this level truly amplifies it. Adding to the intensity, they start using catapults, which I'm kind of surprised they'd never brought to the fight in the film. I'd imagine they had the resources to build them due to them cutting down a sizable portion of Fangorn Forest. Eventually, this little devil gets a sneaky multi-kill by blowing up the wall. Now begins a secondary defense mission, as we alone must defend this singular wooden door from an onslaught of enemy forces. I think this might be the longest level around the 10-minute mark. That's largely in part that we just have to wait for the enemy to come to us, and we get a smorgasbord of orcs, Uruk-hai, including berserkers, cave trolls, because of course, and a catapult? The lack of faith that these guys have in their own soldiers to deal with Aragorn, that they need to send in a catapult to destroy this one wooden door. Their worry was justified because we destroyed the catapult and then repelled the rest of the enemy forces because Aragorn. But I guess we needed to retreat anyway, because we begin our final main story level, in which we have to defend the large gates that lead into the keep. This was a bit of a mixed bag, because while it was hype with the music and the sheer amount of fighting going on around you, It really did display a big issue with the combat and just how easily you can be interrupted. This has been a minor problem that crops up every so often, and I eventually just stopped using combos for the most part, especially the longer ones, as trying to pull them off became more costly than what it was worth. The enemy attacks come out so quick that you'll just take more jabs to the face than necessary when trying to do combos any longer than 3 buttons. Hell, even the 3-string ones can be annoying sometimes. To raise the tension, Legolas somehow needs our aid, and I only knew exactly where to go because I just remembered from playing the game so much as a kid. You don't get too much detail outside of, you are surrounded by stone. Meanwhile, Gimli is just busy having a very casual epic last stand. Look at him go. Everything is going somewhat smoothly until 2 trolls of all things climb over the walls. Now, this would be intimidating, but by this point, with all of the upgrades that we have gathered, not so much. Now, if it was 3 trolls, that would be something. We beat the mission and are greeted to a cutscene. Oh! Hey, King Theoden, it's the only time we see you. And that's it. Nearly. We actually have a secret level when we reach level 10 with the character, and this is the first and only time we see the wonderful yet terrifying display of Saruman and his pointy fingers and horrid grimace. In all seriousness, rest in peace, Sir Christopher Lee, you are eternally missed. We are in the Tower of Isengard, and this is just a wave mission of 20, which to be fair is a sizable amount of all the enemies we have fought throughout the game. Well shit, the game answered my request for a tri-troll fight. Beating the final wave, we get a somewhat awkward interaction between Aragorn and Saruman.
You did not believe a ragtag ranger could contend with my will, did you? I am beyond your power. You shall pay for your arrogance.
He sounds like when Merlin would cast a spell. If you haven't seen The Adventures of Merlin, I'd recommend it. It's a mid-2000s fantasy show, so it's just full of wonderful, delightful cheesiness. Now, we may have beaten the secret level, but not the last mission, with a nice surprise of being able to do a level as Isildur. A wow, you might say, but unfortunately the special mission for him is just the exact same Isengard wave as the one we just did. On the upside, Isildur just one-shots all the orcs that don't have shields because Narsil slaps. Seriously, this sword is so damn strong. 2 heavy swings to fully kill an Uruk-hai Berserker is crazy work. And from beating that version of the mission is when we actually get the end credits. Well, fair enough. After this, if you are so inclined, you can now go through the entire game again as Isildur himself. Playing through this game again after many years, I was worried that it wasn't as good as I remembered, and to a slight degree, that did happen. But that is because I just noticed things I wasn't really aware of as a kid when playing this game, like how frustrating the combat can sometimes feel. And that is honestly my only big criticism of the game. How frustrating the combat can sometimes feel, and also that it does start to get a bit repetitive. Well, that and the stupid Warg boss fight. Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers gets an Uruk-hai Berserker out of 10. The swings of your sword can seem a bit all over the place and you don't always connect, but when you do, it feels great. At least from the Uruk-hai's perspective. The game does its job and then some, with placing you in the boots of our 3 boys, and I think that it is, to this day, one of the best movie tie-in games we have. But there is one that does everything this game does, but better. Also, as a little treat for beating the secret level as Isildur, you gain access to some cheat codes, and by far the best one is the tiny enemies. Look at them! Look at the tiny boys! They become borrowers while their swords just stay the same size. Even the bosses are tiny. Look at this. Look at their tiny tentacles bobbing in the water. Look at this adorable little guy with all his still terrifying strength. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you want to see more videos like this, feel free to like and subscribe. For another video similar to this one, I made a slightly longer video on Mio Memories in Orbit. I'm pretty proud of it, and I hope that you all have a wonderful day.